When Danielle Brooks joined the team, no one looked twice. She was soft-spoken, polite, and unassuming. In a world of loud managers and louder egos, she didn't stand a chance. Or so they thought. They called her too quiet, said she didn't have presence, said she wasn't leadership material. But what they never asked was why she was really there. Because Danielle wasn't just another hire. She was the eyes of someone much higher. And by the time they realized who she was, it was already too late. Monday morning, 8:57 a.m. The office was already alive, not with brilliance, but with the usual noise. Half-drunk coffee cups, Slack notifications, tired jokes recycled from the week before. And into this walked Danielle Brooks, blazer pressed, shoes polished, no fanfare, no oversized personality, just presence. Eric, the director of ops, barely glanced up as he introduced her at the morning meeting. This is Danielle, joining us from Chicago. She'll be supporting finance for now. For now. No one asked questions. No one offered help. They just sized her up with the quiet brutality of office veterans. Rochelle, the department manager, didn't even say hello. She didn't like her already. Something about Danielle's stillness made her uncomfortable. It wasn't just the quiet, it was the control behind it. But to Rochelle, silence meant one thing: weakness. She made a mental note before the meeting even ended. Not a threat. The first week, Danielle spoke little. She asked a few questions, took a lot of notes, never interrupted, never self-promoted. She didn't hover at the coffee machine, didn't fake laugh at the daily culture jokes, didn't beg to be noticed. And that, to Rochelle, was unacceptable. She's too quiet, Rochelle said over lunch to another manager. No spark, no edge. Not really a team player, you know? But what she didn't know was this. Danielle wasn't trying to be a team player. She was studying the field. Every time someone spoke over her in a meeting, she took note. Every missed calendar invite, every passive-aggressive email, every time someone forgot to loop her in, she documented it. Not to get revenge, but to get clarity. And slowly, patterns began to emerge. Rochelle had favorites, people who echoed her opinions. She stole slide decks from junior staff, slapped her name on them. She flirted with executives in quarterly meetings, mocked interns behind closed doors. Danielle saw it all, and said nothing, because silence isn't always submission. Sometimes silence is strategy. By the third week, Danielle had become a ghost in the office. She was always on time, always prepared, always overlooked. In meetings, Rochelle never once asked for her input. And when Danielle did speak, briefly, clearly, professionally, Rochelle would tilt her head, smile thinly, and say, let's circle back on that later. She never did. Meanwhile, Lance, the new guy, showed up late, called clients by the wrong name, and once submitted a budget that didn't add up to 100%. But he laughed at Rochelle's jokes, called her Ratch like they were old friends. Danielle watched as he was publicly praised for initiative. In private, she updated her notes. Then came the first red flag, bold and intentional. Danielle was left off a major email thread for the Q2 review. When she brought it up to Rochelle, she got a shrug. Oh, must have been a CC error. You've got to speak up more, D. Can't just disappear in the background. Disappear? Danielle didn't disappear. She absorbed. That week, Rochelle reassigned one of Danielle's reports to another associate. No explanation, no credit, just a casual, "It'll be easier this way." Then, the next Monday, the team met without her. A meeting she was never invited to, about deliverables she created. When she asked about it, Rochelle didn't deny it. She simply leaned back in her chair and said, "You don't seem to want to lead, Danielle. I need people who want to step up, who take space." Danielle met her gaze, said nothing, and opened a new file on her desktop. Private folder, labeled Observations, password protected, time-stamped, with every conversation, every slide deck transfer, every forgotten invite, and every redirected task documented. Line by line, back at her apartment, Danielle worked in silence. Headphones in. Screen dimmed. One monitor played back footage from the office. Clips recorded legally, discreetly from a pen camera clipped to her notebook. Rochelle's sarcasm. Lance's ignorance. The manipulation. Captured without noise. The quiet girl. She was archiving a storm. And still, at work, she said nothing. That, more than anything, infuriated Rochelle. Because Danielle wouldn't give her a reaction. Wouldn't flinch. Wouldn't beg for approval. And there's nothing more threatening to a weak manager than someone who cannot be baited. Week 5. The whispers started getting louder. She's awkward. Does she even like working here? She never talks. Like she's too good for us or something. At the company lunch, Danielle sat quietly, sipping water while the others scrolled through memes. One of the associates showed something inappropriate. A racial caricature wrapped in just a joke. They all laughed. Danielle didn't. Rochelle caught her eye across the table and smirked. Too quiet to have a sense of humor? She asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Danielle gave a polite smile, and later that night, added a note to the folder. Inappropriate humor shared in group setting. Targeted comment directed at silence. The next morning, Danielle emailed a correction to the team's weekly ops report. A decimal was misaligned, a mistake that could cost the client thousands. Rochelle replied in front of everyone. Thanks, Danielle, but let's not nitpick. We're big-picture thinkers here. A few team members chuckled nervously. Danielle didn't blink. 2 days later, her calendar was mysteriously wiped clean. Meetings she'd scheduled were gone. When she asked IT for the access logs, they said they'd check. They never got back to her. Rochelle brushed it off. Could be user error. Happens when you don't use Outlook right. Danielle nodded, took a screenshot, and backed up her files to a second drive. It wasn't just about projects anymore. This was personal. Rochelle wasn't trying to coach Danielle. She was trying to erase her. And when you erase someone who's been paying attention, you make your own replacement. Danielle began noticing how others treated her, too. When she entered a room, conversations paused. When she submitted work, it came back with questions no one else received. At one point, she heard someone say, "She gives off a weird vibe, like she's watching everything." They weren't wrong. Danielle was watching, and she was building something far more powerful than a paper trail. She was building proof. Week 7. A meeting is called, and once again, Danielle isn't invited. But this time, it's about her. She finds out from a whispered Slack message. "Hey, just a heads up. They're saying you missed a major file delivery." Danielle freezes, checks her records. She sent it. On time. Documented. Timestamped. Email confirmed. Even got a read receipt. But now, it's gone from the shared folder. She walks to Rochelle's office. Rochelle doesn't look up from her screen. "I'm in back-to-backs." Danielle nods. "Understood. Just want to confirm. You saw my delivery from Tuesday?" Rochelle finally looks up, tilts her head. "You didn't upload it. It wasn't there. And honestly, I'm worried." Danielle blinks. Once. Rochelle folds her arms. "You've been disengaged. You don't communicate. There's a real concern about how you're fitting in." Danielle says nothing. She just breathes in. Slow. Steady. That afternoon, she's summoned to HR. The room is beige. Cold. Sanitized. 2 reps sit across from her, eyes politely concerned. "Danielle, we're hearing multiple reports of performance inconsistencies and communication breakdowns. Your manager is questioning whether this role is the right fit." Danielle nods. "Is there a formal complaint?" "Not yet. This is a preliminary discussion." She thanks them for their time, leaves the room, walks to her desk, closes her laptop, and smiles. They thought they were writing her out of the story. What they didn't know was that they were walking into hers. The trap was almost finished, and the final piece was about to fall into place. The next morning, the energy in the office was off. Whispers, Slack messages sent, deleted. People glanced toward the conference room, where blinds had been drawn. 9:02 a.m. An all-hands meeting is called. Mandatory attendance. Rochelle arrives first, confidently sipping a macchiato. Lance strolls in behind her, cracking a joke that no one laughs at. The director of ops, Eric, stands at the front, but he's not speaking. He's waiting for Danielle, who enters not in business casual but in a tailored navy blazer. A black leather folder in her hand. No badge on her chest. She takes a seat at the table. Calm, composed, centered. Eric clears his throat. Thanks, everyone. This will be brief. I'd like to introduce Danielle Brooks, not as your analyst, but in her actual capacity. Rochelle squints, confused, shifts in her seat. Eric continues. Danielle is a senior integrity auditor from our global HR division, stationed at HQ. She's been conducting a covert workplace evaluation following a flagged trend of internal complaints and culture breakdowns. Silence. Someone drops a pen. Rochelle blinks. Once, twice, then laughs nervously. Wait, what? She's auditing us? Danielle opens her folder, places it flat on the table, and speaks for the first time clearly, firmly. Yes, I've been embedded here for the last 7 weeks. My assignment was to assess ethical conduct, leadership behavior, and reporting integrity across this branch. Danielle's eyes don't leave Rochelle's face. Your name appears 87 times in my documentation. A gasp from the room. Rochelle starts to speak, but Danielle cuts her off, without raising her voice. This is not a discussion. This is a formal disclosure. She hands a sealed envelope to the director. All evidence is enclosed. Timeline, correspondence, video footage, then looks back at the team. Further decisions regarding employment and investigation status will be handled by the compliance office directly. And just like that, Danielle stands. No anger, no raised voice, no grand gesture, just the weight of truth and the silence of authority. By Friday, Rochelle's desk was empty. Her name tag gone, her emails auto-redirected. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. Lance was moved to another team, pending retraining. HR began mandatory ethics workshops. Calendars were updated. Slack channels reorganized. Everyone started speaking more carefully. But Danielle? She didn't say much at all. 2 weeks later, she was gone. No one saw her leave. No farewell party. No exit interview. Just a deactivated ID badge, and an echo of something they hadn't realized until too late. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it watches, sometimes it records, and sometimes it writes the final report. They said she was too quiet, that she didn't speak up, that she didn't fit in. But silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon, a mirror, a warning. Danielle didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She didn't ask to be treated better. She made sure they treated no one else worse. If they think you're not paying attention, let them talk. Let them underestimate you. Then let the truth speak louder than they ever did. This is Fired and Fed Up. Real stories, real power, real silence that hits different. Subscribe, drop your story, and remember they might be watching you, but you might be watching back.